What is up, guys? My name is Donny from Next Level Esports, and in this video we will cover the advantages and disadvantages of being a generalist versus a specialist, so you can better develop and position yourself growing into your career. Let's first take a look at the advantages and disadvantages of a generalist, starting off with the advantages. A generalist is a person that is competent in several different fields or activities. Some would say a jack of all trades. Someone whose skills and interests and habits are varied. They do a lot of different things. And a generalist does a bit of everything. The keyword here is with, covering a lot of roles across the board. So what you can see here in this image, and let me put my cursor of the mouse here, is that you see a lot of, you can say, blocks. Now here you have the areas of skills. So on the horizontal line, you see like a lot of skills. So this could be, for example, analyst work, leadership, communication, or whatever. So as you can see, as a generalist, you kind of have a little bit of depth of everything. You have at least, some basic understanding, and maybe in some parts a deeper understanding on some fronts that maybe are personally interesting to you, that you developed or you're more leaning towards from your natural tendencies, maybe leadership, communication, or heck, it maybe even social media things. It can be very different. This is just an example. And on the left side, you see the level of competence, or you can say the depth of the knowledge that you know. So the further you can go or deeper you can go on each specific area. So a generalist is usually more on the width side, knowing a little bit of everything. And maybe, and I kept this one out, that is only just one block. Maybe that is, for example, maybe that is the social media. So of course you are a well-known coach, but you've never done any social media. So even though you can do a lot, maybe social media is not your thing, and that is okay, right? So I try to have a little bit of discussion points to have it as realistic as possible, but this hopefully gives you a good idea about how a generalist, or how you can schematically look at it. So what are some of the core advantages? As you can see here, number one is you are pretty much flexible. As a generalist, you can coach on team dynamics, strategies, communication, stress, and motivation, just to name a few. Maybe not as in-depth like a specialist can, but you can sure, do the basics and maybe one step further than the basics. You can provide feedback on macro plays as well as work on team building aspects. You can do a lot. And second is ideal for beginning teams or coaching individual players in teams up to semi-pro teams. Because the reason why it is because usually there is little to no budget for a bigger staff or specialist to support you. So everything comes down to you, because you are the center point of basically everything. And this is, in the beginning, as you're starting off your career, a great experience, and to get experience with working with players and working in esports and understanding more about different roles in esports overall. And in many cases, you will be forced to learn some managing, social media, team bonding, coaching, analyzing, as you are the only one who is expected to do all of these things and solve all of the challenges and problems that you will face together with your players and teams. And this can be a bit of a learning curve in the beginning, but when you have developed basic skills in all areas, this is super, super valuable for your future career, as you understand what other people have to do at certain places when you are working with specialists, and if they are doing what they're supposed to do, because you understand the basics and fundamentals. Then number three is an advantage is to quickly spot problems within the team, because you know so many things and know the associations and the connections of everything. As a generalist with a lot of basic knowledge of many roles and areas, it is usually much easier to spot things that are a bit off. This does not mean you always have the right solution for it, but you can recognize where problems are coming from, which increases the chances of solving problems faster, especially when working with other staff like specialists. Great, important point. Then advantage number four is great roles to be a head coach or performance coach because they need to understand a lot of things, at least from the fundamental basics and sometimes even more specialistic aspects of it. These roles are generally very generalistic by nature because it is expected of these roles that they know a decent bit of everything. They need to know a bit of everything because they are responsible for everything that happens inside the team. Then number 5, because you are a generalist, you tend to learn very fast. Also, you tend to lean into a tendency of learning a lot of things by nature. You like to learn a lot of different things. And by being a generalist, you will learn a lot of things very fast. Simple as that. Sometimes because you want to learn how to do things, but most of the time because someone needs to do it. You have a problem and you are basically the only person that can fix it or can put up the challenge. But what are some of the disadvantages of being a generalist? The number one disadvantage is it's more difficult to position and sell yourself. Because have you looked at other coaches for, looking for team posts from other coaches? Have you checked their resumes, CVs, or portfolios? And if you have, you know that most of them are very similar with very similar keywords. Things like team building, mindset, structure, growth, strategy. And that when teams are looking through these coaches, through their portfolio and CVs and resumes, who should they pick? Why should they pick you when everything is basically the same but just slightly different? Disadvantage number 2 is you have less deep expertise and knowledge because you are a generalist. It is likely you miss depth in certain areas to develop top esports players and high-level teams to the next level. You might miss the tools, insights, and approaches to really challenge them on a very detailed level. And if you are not aware of your boundaries and where your knowledge or expertise stops, this can also cause friction and distrust of your players towards you. And it is okay to not know everything, as some players just know the game, knowledge things much better than their coach. Don't worry about that. Just don't try to fake it that you know. Be humble and know your own limits. Disadvantage number 3 is the risk for being mediocre at basically everything. You can do everything a little bit, but nothing truly stands out. For example, coaching, okay. Team building, yeah, it's decent. Individual conversation and bonding, yeah, it's all right. Managing, okay. Communication, okay. And at the end, it could be that you are seen as an okay coach. Because if nothing stands out, then most people will want to see that everything is at least not okay, but at least good, which brings it to a greater experience for the players. But sometimes having everything at an okay level just doesn't feel nice for most players and teams. They just feel like, meh. They will notice quickly, and when coaches do not evolve over time, they are usually skipped over for a next season or split. Number 4 is you run into your own limitations as your players and team grows during the season, or that over season, as you climb the career ladder of joining higher level teams, you start to notice that you are hitting personal limits. You run into the same problems, but you cannot solve those problems at that level yet. You start to experience things and think and feel that you are missing tools, methods, or approaches that you will need to reach your next level, because what brought you where you are right now won't bring you usually to the next level where you want to be. And sometimes in very privileged situations, experts can be hired by the organization to help you and your team, but many times you are literally the limit of what your players and team can develop or solve. And number 5 is not every organization wants a generalist. Professional, higher paid teams are oftentimes looking for more specialists, macro experts, positional coaches, psychologists, analysts, trainers of specific skills. And if you are not bringing some sort of unique value, then usually the organization or team rather picks someone else. Especially in higher levels of esports, you will want to stand out. Some high-level organizations thrive on having a generalist head coach, and usually these head coaches bring in a high level of general knowledge, and usually bring in a track record as well of success. So in summary, a recap about the generalistic coach. The strengths of a generalistic coach are overseeing the big picture. That is your strength. Providing overall structure, connecting all of the areas together, and coaching on multiple fronts. The weaknesses are a lack of deep expertise usually, difficult to position yourself and difficult to become the obvious choice. And a generalist is ideal or good for early stage teams, solo coaching players, head coach positions or performance roles, and is not so ideal for solving very specialistic problems. So like top tier teams also have a difficulty of, just having fundamental skills alone. You need those and a bit extra. Without a clear niche or high level generalistic skills, they usually won't pick you. So ask yourself, are you someone who knows and does a bit of everything? And maybe you like doing it, and that is okay. Or do you feel like you want to become more specialized in one particular area? Now, in contrast to a generalist, a specialist concentrates primarily on a particular subject or activity. Usually they are highly skilled in a specific and restricted area. So instead of doing a bit of everything, they know a lot about very little usually. An example is specific lane coach, for example, in League of Legends, who only coaches the top lane, for a Valorant coach who only coaches on a specific role, or even as very specific agent alone. The keyword here for a specialist is depth. Now, what you can see here is same, again, the blocks, but instead of being it more saturated on the top, with more general and fundamental knowledge, a specialist is more into depth. So even though it has maybe some, fundamental skills in every area, or he can, understand what you're coming from social media, leadership, communication, but maybe this is truly, a specialist in a very niche strategy setup, or maybe that agent, or maybe a communication specialist, or maybe an expert for team building activities. Who knows? Right? This is what we are looking at. So maybe like, okay, social media is, this one knows a little bit more than maybe the coach about social media, but he knows a lot about, psychology for players, solving deep-rooted issues in team dynamics. So even though the coach knows the basic stuff, but when the team goes off tracks, or falls or revolves into a conflict, then his limit of knowledge is not enough anymore. So he needs to work with a specialist that is, for example, a performance coach or an esports psychologist, to really work individually with players to overcome challenges, mental blocks, in order to move the team further. And depending on the situation and context, none of them is better, but you have to understand and acknowledge each other's strengths and really value each other's skill set. So if you can work with specialists, that is great, but usually you want to understand why they are coming in and what specific problem you want them to solve. Now, let's take a look at the advantages and disadvantages of a specialist. With number one, you are instantly recognizable as a specialist and much easier to sell, because when they go through your work and hear about your expertise, teams pretty much know exactly and immediately why they should hire you or not, because they have a specific problem they want to solve. As an example, you are a specialist in a specific role or are a master in setting up communication structures. If you can sell yourself or position yourself like that, people know why and how to hire you immediately on the spot. Number two is you can create deep and measurable impact. Because you focus on one specific area, you can help players or teams break through performance barriers in that specific area. Not all, but that specific area. And you are valuable for those breakthroughs. Number three is you are much more likely to be hired by higher level teams. Top tier teams look especially for specialists to solve specific problems. They have a bigger budget, so they can do that. It's a luxury and a privilege. If you've got a proven method or an edge above older people that are doing something similar, or coaches, but you have a specialistic niche in terms of knowledge, you will stand out. You are liked and trusted because of this. And the higher you go in terms of career and competitive level, the more your skills are valued. Number 4 is that you build authority and reputation faster. Specialists become known in their niche and get referrals because of that more easy, because they solve a very linear, usually linear, direct, understood problem. So they get these referrals much more easy, especially when you leave a path of happy players, teams, and clients with amazing results. Then it's a no-brainer. Then number 5, you can charge also premium rate. You can also charge premium rates. Deep expertise is a higher perceived value and therefore higher pricing. As a specialist, you usually solve a crucial and specific problem. Teams, especially the professional ones, will gladly invest in this and potentially in you. And this sounds great and all, but it does not come only with advantages, even though this sounds really good, right? Being and becoming a specialist is also coming with disadvantages. Number 1, you're less flexible or broadly useful. You are useful for teams and players when there is a clear need in your area. But when there is not a problem or challenge clearly defined and is not so clear, that is outside of your control and your role is limited. So imagine there's a team has a lot of problems, but they don't know what is exactly the problems in their performance. So they hire a generalist, a performance coach, to come in and look at everything that has a deeper knowledge of the generalistic fundamentals of the game and seeks an entrance into solving a problem on a slightly deeper level. But if one person, for example, needs a specialist for psychological things that has mental blockage, you want a psychologist instead of a performance coach, right? So that's a specialistic more role in that sense. If that is not there, a defined, well-defined problem, your role is limited. That sometimes you are having a difficult time finding work that values your expertise and specialism. Now, number 2 is you don't fit well in low budget teams. Beginner, amateur, and semi-pro teams usually want a coach who can do it all because usually they have limited resources. Therefore, in early stages of careers and competitive environments, generalists often get picked over specialists in most situations. Number 3 is you risk getting stuck as a specialist, because when you know everything about a very little aspect or a very little area, it can be a blind spot for you to oversee all of the connections between other parts within a team environment, where you can be basically tunnel visioned on your specific problem, while maybe there's something more than only your challenge or problem is going on. Number 4 is your value can depend on the structure and environment set by others. Specialists especially thrive in professional orgs with full support staff. In chaotic or underdeveloped teams, your specialism may not land the way it is intended. There's a high chance of mismatch when the organizational structure is not there, that is operating on a minimal, decent, and fundamental level. And number 5, you constantly need to prove that you are the best. When you are a specialist, you are directly compared to other specialists. You will want to stand out, and if you have competition, the competition can be quite fierce. You can feel a pressure to consistently outperform other similar specialists that are doing something similar. Your results and reputation of your specialism create demand. Now, let's summarize it briefly. The strengths of a specialist are having a deep impact, having a clear positioning, and offer that usually holds authority. The weakness is more difficulty of applying broad support and being flexible outside of your specific specialism. And specialists are ideal for usually higher level teams that are focused on performance goals in order to get some sort of results. Of course, everyone wants results, but this is more aimed for a specific problem, specific challenge, and then a solution towards that. And a specialist is not so ideal or good for amateur to semi-pro teams. I'm not saying that they cannot work there, but they require more general support usually in order to really thrive. So for now, you know what a generalist is and a specialist. You probably have an idea of where you are right now, but which one is better? That is for you to decide, coach. And that is it for this video. Please let me know in the comments below, like, subscribe, about your thoughts. Where are you at right now? And do you want to become more of a generalist or maybe a specialist? If so, which direction? Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video, coach. Ciao, ciao.